If it'll let us record. All right, recording has started. We're doing the Zoom, we're doing the draft review. It's been since last year since I did this. I know I did this at the beginning of the year, and then we got the pod rolling, had some people on. But I just kind of wanted to start and do a quick draft review. It will let me share my screen, so why don't we do that? You're gonna see the whatever the fuck this is. And now you should be seeing our draft board. All right, not bad. So we do have our classic 10-man league, classic lineup settings. We got one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, three flex for six, a tight end, kicker, classic. I want to get rid of the kicker defense, but that's just how people go. So we're going to go one by one through each person and go through their team, just what I think of them. Not a fantasy expert, I guess, by any means, but just my opinions. So we'll start with Blaine at the 101. Blaine took Jamar. I think he's, pretty unanimously the 101, unless you feel the need for a running back. But I think with the way our league is set up, that's not necessary as we are only required one running back. So good start there. I do think it's kind of crazy that he got Puka all the way at the end of a second. I know there were a lot of Matt Stafford injuries, but me personally, at the end of last year, I had him as a late first round guy, early second round guy. Even at the beginning of this year, once I got the draft order, he was in considerations for me at the turn right here. But with the Matt Stafford injury, he slid a good bit. So I think Blaine got good value if Stafford is healthy and Puka's healthy. He should be a top 10 wide receiver if all that comes true. And drafted him right at wide receiver. It looks like 9. Not a bad pick. James Cook, I actually think this is a bit of a reach. I would have much rather Jonathan Taylor and Devon Achane that went after him in this range. I just think he's due for some touchdown regression. I know he had a fuck ton last year and only had 2 the year before, so he'll probably play somewhere in the middle between 8 and 12 touchdowns, which, he was a top 10 running back last year, but if he drops, 6 to 8 touchdowns from last year, that'll put him down towards the back end of the RB2 category. He doesn't really have the receiving upside as much as some of these other backs, and I think Ray Davis and some others may be taking some touches to where his snap shares, closer to 50% rather than 60 or 70. So that's not my favorite pick. Burrow, good pick in the 4th. Kind of figured this was going to happen with the Jamar Chase stack. I think everybody just kind of acknowledged it, as this is a little high for Joe Burrow, maybe, but great to have that stack. Next, we have Terry McLaurin, who signed his contract, I believe, like a day or two after this was drafted. He should be a good pick. We'll see how much Debo takes away from him from last year. He also had a very, very high touchdown total last year and is due for some regression in that area. I believe he caught all of his red zone targets. Maybe it was in zone targets. I could be wrong on that. But again, very, very high touchdown volume due to regress. RJ Harvey, decent pick here. I mean, we'll really see how much he gets integrated. We know Sean Payton loves a 2 running back system. How much will Harvey get? How much will Dobbins get? And who gets the goal line work versus the receiving work? I think Harvey's going to get more receiving work than Dobbins, and Dobbins will get more goal line work. But we'll see. Probably won't be a good starter for the first few weeks, but could really grow into a solid RB2 for the rest of the year. Laporta, I'm also not as big on. I think the Lions take a bit of a step back this year. And they did draft Isaac Tesla, who I think will be taking some targets away as well in those 3 and 4 receiver sets. So I like Laporta. It looks here he went about tight end 4 with only McBride, Bowers, and Kittle taken ahead of him. I do think that's a little high, especially when you look at Kraft, Ingram, and Njoku, and Hogginson, who all went after him. I mean, not the worst pick, but we'll see how he performs. Travis Hunter, we'll see how many snaps he's getting on offense. It looks like he will be playing in the slot week 1, which could be good for him, good for that floor for half PPR. Think he might work his way into a startable flex depending on the week and the matchup. But we'll see what Liam Cohen can do with this offense, and maybe Brian Thomas drawing some coverage will get him open a bit more often. Rome Odunze, I am the highest on him of any Bears wide receiver. I think that Ben Johnson is going to do a lot with him in the slot. I think that there have been some stuff about Caleb Williams and DJ Moore not necessarily being on the right page all the time. So I do like Rome Odunze, especially in the 9th round. think he could be a viable flex against certain positions. And maybe if Ben Johnson turns this offense into 75% of what the Lions was last year, he should have good totals. Brandon Aubrey, the GOAT, MLS goalkeeper. He was my kicker last year or 2 years ago. Drafted him purely because he was an MLS guy, and now he's the best fucking kicker in the league. Very much a reach for him, but Blaine does this every fucking year with Justin Tucker or whoever the fuck. So, whatever. Keon Coleman, dumb as fuck, not going to be the best receiver on his team. I just don't think he's that good, and Josh Allen throws to just whoever the fuck's open, so not my favorite pick. Trey Benson, just handcuff. James Conner gets banged up a lot, leaves games early, but he does tend to play through injuries when he has them. So I'm not sure how much value you're going to get out of him. I think he'll be dropped before he's actually serviceable, but somebody else might pick him up and be able to use him. Broncos defense, great defense. I think this is the first one taken, or no, the Eagles went before. Great secondary. Pat Surtain will be great. They like to bring pressure, playing mile high where it's cold. Um, Great defense. Jaden Blue, I do like him as one of the late round committee backs. I think he doesn't have much competition there. And Dallas will start the year probably in second or third on the depth chart, but Miles Sanders is much competition. And Javonte Williams, although he's going to get the starting role, he's very injury prone, and I don't think he's super efficient either. So Jaden Blue should be able to work his way into this offense at some point during the year. I just think they're going to be really pass heavy. So, his upside's very limited, but I do think he could be startable at some point during the year. And then Marvin Mims, I thought I saw a note on him that he just got injured or something back at practice yesterday. Okay, so maybe he plays week one. There's just a bunch of receivers in Denver other than Cortland Sutton. Who's going to be the wide receiver two? Who knows? Whatever. I think he'll be dropped before he gets a meaningful start as well. All in all, I do think Blaine's team is pretty good. I think he did reach on James Cook a little bit. I think RJ Harvey's kind of a question mark. Laporta, I don't love. And then obviously he reached on his kicker, and I don't love Keon Coleman or Marvin Mims, any of his late round choices. I'll give him a solid B. He did have the 101. And should have three good starting wide receivers every week. His last flex spot will probably be between RJ Harvey, Travis Hunter, and Roma Dunze, which I think is fine. You can play the matchups with those. Hunter and RJ Harvey might take a little bit longer to get into that spot, but Rome should be a decent play for the first month or so of the season. So we'll give you a B. Bobby Lee, start with him. Bijan at the 102. I think it's a good pick. I think there's a little bit of a curse, or everybody's talking about the touches with Saquon Barkley. Bijan also had a fuck ton of touches last year, but I think Michael Penis is going to give some diversity to this offense, make it a little bit harder for them to stop the run, as you got to account for that extra runner in the backfield sometimes. And he is capable of throwing the deep ball, so maybe be able to stretch those safeties a little bit and give Bijan a little bit more room. I really like this pick at the 102. Would have taken him anywhere in the first five, and was probably my second running back off the board, but don't hate Bobby for taking him here. Kyron Williams, very volume dependent, should be on a good offense if Matthew Stafford is healthy. He did lead the league in terms of touch percentage, in terms of all running backs on any team. So he was on the field for more snaps than any other running back in the NFL last year. If that continues, he's almost a certifiably locked top 10 play if Matt Stafford's healthy. If Stafford's hurt, one of these other guys, Blake Corum or one of their other backups, starts integrating some touches, he could fall to a low end RB2. But I think that offense will be good enough, and his rushing volume's good to where he's a solid locked in starter every week. Jonathan Taylor, I actually really like this pick. I think he's going to get a lot of volume in an offense that should be a lot better than it was the past 2 years. I don't think they'll be very pass heavy, and Daniel Jones is a check down merchant. So he does have that high floor upside in the half PPR. With all that said, while I do like all three of these running backs, I think going triple RB to start in our format is not very good. I know last year RBs didn't get injured as much as wide receivers, but normally they do, right? They get a lot more touches, they're hit a lot more. So I think if one or two of these guys get injured, Bobby could be in some real trouble, especially when we start looking at his wide receiver depth. Tyreek Hill and Marvin Harrison, they were my full fades on my board at this turn here. I just wasn't touching either of them. I think Tyreek Hill could have that real ceiling, but the defenses that play against them run a lot of cover two. Tua loves to check down to Achane. He's really going to rely on the yards after catch and those big deep balls to really make your day. Very variable play. He's either going to kill you or he's going to get you 20 points. He was just a full fade for me. And then Marvin Harrison, I saw so many terrible coaching things last year about how they didn't have any design targets for him last year. Which is absolutely astounding to me when you draft him that high. He ran like the second most go routes of any wide receiver in the NFL, which like for a guy this talented, he should be running crossers and intermediary routes. So just didn't make much sense to me. Xavier Worthy, I don't love him either. I think he might be a good play while Rashee Rice is out the first couple of weeks. But once Rashee Rice comes back, I think he'll be a desperation touchdown flex play at best. So if you're considering 5 of these 6 guys starting every week for Bob, I don't really love it. I don't like any of these 3 wide receivers, and I think his running backs will have to carry him. If they get injured, he's in trouble. Bo Nix, I think he's a good play. He's got a good rushing floor. His completion percentage should be very good. He should be in a pretty good offense. And he actually throws a pretty decent deep ball. It doesn't account for many of his throws, but if he throws 1 or 2 a game, maybe 3, Cortland Sutton, the Marvin Mims, these fast receivers can get downfield and can catch the ball. So maybe he does have that upside. Debo Samuel, he's fat as fuck. We'll see what happens to him. I really don't know what to think about him. But he does have that yards after catch ability and can play running back if all of their running backs get hurt, which they have 4 of. So don't see that coming too often, but he should get some carries. Brian Robinson, McCaffrey handcuff, won't get more than 5 carries a game unless they're blowing somebody out. Purely just handcuff here. Not my biggest favorite, but with how injury prone McCaffrey is, real upside play here. Javonte Williams, mentioned him earlier. Dude's buns should get a lot of volume early in the season. We'll see if that continues. But I think they're going to have a lot more passing touchdowns than rushing touchdowns. So maybe a high floor play, but I think his ceiling's capped. Mark Andrews, this guy actually did 100% catch all of his end zone targets last year. You can see he caught a fucking touchdown in like every game the last 10 games. Like 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I mean, dude was a touchdown merchant, and you can see he was fucking putting up garbage points. I mean, he got 15, 20, 14, 18. Oh, that's full PPR. We don't have half PPR on here, but I mean, he just was not that good last year. And what's his face? The backup's fucking injured, so he should get the targets early. Not a bad first half of the year play, but not my favorite. Jaden Reed, Jones fracture. We'll see if he starts the season. I think he might be the wide receiver 3 on this team in terms of volume, but I think he'll have more red zone targets than Romeo Doubs and maybe even Matthew Golden. We'll see. I just think they like to run the ball a lot over there, especially in the red zone. So not my favorite pick for this year, although he has looked good in the past and is capable of having a good game. Scatabo, I think he'll split snaps with Tracy towards the middle of the year, into the year after their bye. Real receiving upside with him. I just think they're kind of a 2-headed backfield, and it's hard to really gauge them. But he probably won't be a starter for the first 4 weeks or so. So we'll just have to wait and feel him out. And then kicker defense, who really gives a fuck? Bobby, we'll give you a C plus. I think if your running backs stay healthy, you have a really fucking good team. I think if you have one injury to any of your running backs, you're kind of fucking cooked. But you do have the upside of if somebody else's running back gets hurt, McCaffrey, one of the Dallas running backs, Tyron Tracy, these guys should be able to fill in fine. So C plus, not my favorite draft from Bobby, but I do tend to not love his teams. I just don't. I think he drafted some decent players. I just don't like the 3 running back, 3 wide receiver build to start the draft. All right, let's get to Strat. Gibbs, I had Gibbs way down my board, like 8 or 9. Like I said, I think the Lions take a step back, losing their OC. They do have an identity. They do love to go for it on 4th down. They love to steamroll teams, so he does still have that really high ceiling. But I think in the bad games, if they only score 17, 20 points, which might only happen a couple times this year, I think if he doesn't get the touchdown, he might be fucked. But he did score double-digit points in like every fucking game last year. So pretty consistent. I just think his ceiling might be capped in those games where they don't explode. Chase Brown, I love. I actually think he drafted him a little high here, but I personally really love him. I think he has potential to be a top 5 back. They should throw the ball more than anybody fucking in the NFL. He's the only guy there. He's great in receiving game, great in pass protection, pretty good at running the ball. I think it really just depends how they work in the red zone, if he is getting those red zone carries, but very high floor for Chase Brown every single week. Certified starter. I don't think you could ask for much more from your number 2 pick. Jaden Daniels, we knew he was going to go high LSU league. I think this is a great pick. His schedule is a little tough this year, but we'll see how having Terry and Debo there will help him. He does have a slew of running backs that we'll see how they contribute. Eckler's listed as number one, but they have JCM and Chris Rodriguez and all these other guys. So um, we'll see. I like the pick, maybe a little high because it's an LSU league, especially above Lamar, which I did not think would happen, but figured they would both go in the third round. Then we have Travion. I really do like Travion. I have him in our dynasty league. I think that Ramondre's kind of fucking buns at this point. So Travion probably won't get a ton of volume to start the season, but he does have that explosive play upside, and I think he will be the number one by the end of the year. Just maybe a little hesitant on him to start the year, as I will be with most rookies. Garrett Wilson, dude's buns, but it's going to have a ton of volume. I was never drafting him if he slid to the fucking 12th round. But props to Strat. He's his wide receiver one, which is fucking scary, especially when you look at some of these guys behind Zay Flowers and Jalen Waddle. I mean, what are we doing here? Strat's kind of cooked on the wide receiver front. I don't know who he's planning on starting where, but he really only has three viable starting running backs, and Travion's not even really that viable for week one. Maybe he is. We'll see. Strat might be fucking cooked because his wide receivers are shit. I do like the Tucker Craft pick. I think he is a real value this year, but you drafted him in the eighth round when you could have gotten him in like the fucking 11th, 12th. So I really don't like reaching for him here. I mean, I get it, reach for your guys, but he maybe went two or three rounds before he should have. All in all, I think he's gonna have a good year, but what, tight end nine, tight end 10, 8, maybe? Like he's not gonna be the tight end fucking five like he was drafted to be. Actually, no, I guess Hawkinson and Njoku and Ingram all did go before him. So tight end 8, okay, fine. Jacoby Myers, dude, requested a trade. I think it was a good pick at the time. We'll see how that works out. Cooper Kupp, washed. JSN, I think, is going to get a lot of the slot role. Cooper Kupp's going to be outside. Maybe I'm wrong because Cooper Kupp is good in the slot too, but I think JSN's a slot merchant. So we'll see. Sam Darnold's ass, can't play outside. Cooper Kupp's washed. If you start him more than once this year, you're a bum. Jaden Higgins listed as third. They paid Christian Kirk a bunch, and Nico Collins is a beast. I think he'll need an injury to really be impactful every single week, but could be good in spot starts. He's really athletic. So if they're playing a bad team, maybe one of their running backs is hurt again, and they're really not going to fucking run the ball, maybe you could play him. Ayuk, dude's buns. I drafted him last year. He was a piece of shit. I'm forever out on Ayuk. Maybe he gives you a couple weeks when he gets back. We'll see. Trey Harris, I do like this dart throw. It's a big upside play. The Chargers don't really have an established wide receiver one other than Lad McConkey, who is just a rookie. So like he could really come up and be that number two guy, especially this year. So we'll see. I do like the pick. I do think the Chargers will be a bit more pass heavy. So we'll see. Like this pick, and then another tight end, sure, whatever. Fake Jurgensen, they're gonna throw the ball a fuck ton too. Not a bad pick, I guess. And then Cam Little actually was my kicker target going into the year. Props to you, Strat. All right, moving on to Jordy. I play you week one. You're my rival. You're the GOAT. Fuck you, like all the way, but whatever. Saquon Barkley, kind of amazed you got him at the four. Like I knew you were going to take him if he fell to the four, but I think it's a great pick here. I really love Drake London too. I also thought he would maybe go a little bit later in the second round, early third. But I think he performed really well with Penis last year. I think he's primed for a great year this year. Should see a ton of volume. And he's just a really safe play, even if he doesn't have that upside. Achan, this is, I'm surprised he slid this low. I was considering taking him in the second round, but with all the injury concerns, Tua's health, the way their offense went stale last year, I do think there are a bunch of red flags, so I can see why he slid, but he was like the wide receiver 11 in terms of just his receiving yards through like week 6 with Tua last year. So like if he can be a top 15, top 20 wide receiver this year just off his receiving, he's going to be a top 10 running back, easy peasy. Maybe even top 5. So it is a risky pick, but I love the upside here. Kamara, kind of the opposite, like really high floor play, not really much of a ceiling. Like, is he going to score 2 touchdowns in many games this year? I don't know, but should have really high receiving volume, should get 80% of the touches back there. He wasn't in my target in the fourth round. I think it's a little too high for him, but a safe floor play every week flex if you need him. You know, need him to fill a spot. Dadams, I didn't really know how to feel about him. I was worried with Stafford stuff, but if Stafford's healthy, I think he should be a fine wide receiver two. Maybe you'd prefer him as a wide receiver three, but he will be Jordy's fifth flex and can sub him in for any of the guys after, who I don't love, by the way. But fine pick here. Tet McMillan, we'll see how he works. Honestly, Bryce Young looked really good last year. Jalen Coker just got put on IR. They did bring Thielen back, so like we'll see how this works out. I do think he is one of the rookies I think is going to do the best this year in terms of the wide receivers. Um, so keep an eye out for him. Patrick Mahomes, I think this is a terrible pick. Matt Eberflus is fucking no. Matt Nagy is a fucking bum. Patrick Mahomes has become a screen merchant with him. I know you can say, oh, well, his players were injured last year, whatever. Well, he's not going to have Rashee Rice to start the year. Travis Kelce's washed. Pacheco's coming off an injury. So we'll see how this offense moves. I think what he was drafted as quarterback one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Not a bad price for him. I think he probably is closer to 9 or 10, but it's Patrick Mahomes. He's the GOAT, whatever. Evan Ingram, there's a real upside play from Jordy here. Dude's been fucking rapping for, oh no, that's Darren Waller. They're the same person. Evan Ingram, he's just fucking Sean Payton's tight end. Could be a great pickup. Could not. We'll see how that works. Joe Mixon, this was the worst pick of the draft. I personally don't think he's going to play any this year. And if he does, it won't be till week 8 or 9. I just think this was a terrible pick. And Jordy just went for the value on him, hoping he would play after week 4. Not going to happen. Etienne, I really like Liam Cohen's offense. Really likes using 2 running backs. And Bucky was really good in it this year. If Etienne gets the Bucky role, he'll be eating top 20 running back probably if their offense works. So I like it. Godwin, again, I think this is a square ass pick. Not going to come. He did avoid IR or pup, which is great. But I think Egbuka is going to be a really solid fill in while he's gone. And I don't think they're going to rush him back. He probably won't get his full allotment of snaps till week 9 or 10. I don't know when their bye is. Week 9. So I would suggest probably week 10 before he sees a full allotment of snaps. And then defense, Jared Goff, Colson Loveland. I do actually kind of like the upside on him. We'll see. It's really late. You might have to hold on to him for a while. Jordy, I'm going to give you a B plus. I think this is a really good draft. I don't love your last flex spot, but I think you and your wizarding ways of the waiver wire or your trades will figure out a way to keep it up. And I mean, you have Saquon. I'm fucked. Sorry. I realized I didn't give Strat a grade. I don't think if I did, I'm going to give you a fucking C minus. Maybe that might be nice. I hate your wide receivers. I don't love Travion as your third running back or as a starting running back. So we'll see. On to Brennan. I did think he should have taken CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson, but I did have Justin Jefferson at 6. So not really any issues here. Josh Jacobs, I think this is a great pick in the second round. The volume's going to be there. The offense is going to be good. It really is just going to come down to touchdowns. He doesn't have the highest receiving floor, but he's got the volume floor. He's going to be an every week starter and should get between 12 and 18 points every week, if not more. Great pick. Again, Lamar in the third. I think this is a great pick too. I had Josh Allen and Lamar circled in the third round. I think we all knew Josh was going to be gone by then. Figured Lamar would be gone by the time it got to me. I think this is a great pick. We'll see if he throws 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions again. I expect his touchdowns come down a little bit and his interceptions go up a little bit, but like more or less the same from Lamar. Mike Evans, I had him circled if JSN wasn't there. I think this is kind of the only good pick that went around here. I don't like Travion, don't like Kamara, don't like Hampton, don't like Tyreek. Kittle's fine, don't like Breece Hall. This would have been my pick if I were in this area, and I think you have a locked-in wide receiver 1 for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then probably a locked-in wide receiver 2 for the rest of the year. I think this is a great pick. Rashee Rice, I thought this was a little high for him, especially since we didn't know all the suspension news. Me and Brennan were talking. He said he was hoping it was 3 or 4. I thought it was going to be 6 to 8. Turns out it's 6. I think you're kind of screwed taking him this high in the 5th round. But, if he comes back and is the player he was last year, he is definitely going to be worth this draft price. Just might put you in a little bit of a setback to start the year. I would have been fine with him in the sixth or seventh, but I think fifth is a little too high. DJ Moore, don't love the Bears wide receivers. I think he'll be fine, serviceable flex play, when you need him. I don't think he's going to be a locked in starter for Brennan. And I don't think he expects that either, but Jeffrey's calling me to play Rocket League. But I don't think he expects him to be an every week starter, maybe just like a fill in bye week injury play. I'm fine with it. 6 rounds, fine, and he should get some value. Ridley in the seventh. This is a great pick. This is one of my favorite picks of the draft. I think that he was maybe going 10 to 15 spots lower in his wide receiver ADP than he should have. I honestly think he's going to be better than Marv, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, probably Ted, maybe J-Mo, maybe Devontae Smith. Like I think he's going to have a really fucking good year here. So just hope he can stay healthy, and he needs Cam Ward to grow into the system pretty quick and get his feet under him. He might have a rough start with a rookie quarterback, but love the pick. Caleb Johnson, he was just listed as third on the running back chart, and Jalen Warren did just get a 2-year extension with like 12 million guaranteed, I think. So while I didn't hate this pick at the time, um, I think that it's looking a little bit bleaker for Caleb Johnson. We'll see. He is a rookie, and depth charts normally don't mean a ton before the season, but I do think he is going to be second fiddle behind Warren no matter what. And Pittsburgh has shown over the last 4 or 5 years that they do love Jalen Warren. Matthew Golden, ninth round. He was mad. None of us took him just so that we could get a king's ransom from him. I do think he will be a good rookie wide receiver. When he starts to come in and make an impact for fantasy, that remains to be seen. But I do like it, especially for the second half of the year. Travis Kelce, I don't like the pick, but he did get a good value on him. He's like tight end 10 or whatever, and will be good while Rashee Rice is there. Plus, he just got engaged. So I don't know, maybe he fucking shows out. Najee Harris, dude shot a firework into his eye or some shit. I don't know. He can't see. I'm just going to act like he's blind. So this is the actual worst pick of the draft because he's blind. Rashad White, we'll see. He was fine to start last year, and then Bucky kind of took over his role. Liam Cohen liked the two running backs. We'll see if their new OC likes the two running backs. Good late round flyer. Bucky gets hurt. He's primed for a lot of work. Sean Tucker's going to take some, but and he has that good receiving floor. Not a bad pick here. And then defense, sure, whatever. Tight end, he fell for Kyle Pitts, but he got him in the 14th round. Drop him after week 2 if he sucks. Like, fine pick. And then Ray Davis, I think this is one of the backups that is primed for getting more work this year integrated. Not saying he's going to see 40, 50% of snaps, but I think he'll be in 4-minute drill, 2-minute drill, obvious passing downs, maybe. So it's a fine pick. I think you really need James Cook to get hurt to get the real upside on Ray Davis, but fine pick. Brennan, I'm gonna give you I'll give you a B plus. I do really like your team. The Rashee Rice pick was not my favorite, and Caleb Johnson, I also don't love now that we have this news. And Najee Harris, I hate, but everybody else on your team I really like. So you're probably not going to start those guys anyways for the most part. So I think you're fine. B plus. Moving on to Dylan. Dylan got CD. I think this is really good value here. He should, be on the offense with the second most passing volume behind the Bengals. Great pick, assuming him and Dak can stay healthy. Bucky Irving, I think this is also a bit high for Bucky Irving. I think the hype maybe got to him a bit too much. Maybe should have been an early third round pick instead of a mid second. They lost their OC. They don't have, Godwin, who was really good for them at the start of last year. I just think their offense takes a little bit of a step back. Not going to be terrible, but I think Baker's probably not going to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns like he did last year, or not really, but close to it. AJ Brown, he's fine as a wide receiver too, I guess. The Eagles have just shown that they really don't give a fuck about throwing the ball if they don't need to. So I think they were like historically low in pass rate over expectation last year. So it should regress to the mean a little bit. And you should see more volume. There are a couple wide receivers after here that I like more than AJ Brown, maybe. But I just don't see the real upside for him. I think he'll be a good floor play. Hampton, we'll see. Chargers love running the ball. I did see a stat that Harbaugh and his OC have coached together. This is their fifth year. In the previous 4 years, they never had a top 15 running back. So I don't love it for Hampton. We'll see. I think he'll be okay, like a viable flex play some weeks, but I think he'll need a touchdown to really make your day. James Conner, I think the most unsexy pick in fantasy football for probably the last 3 years. Dude's going to get a bunch of volume, not on a great team, but he is pretty fucking efficient with the volume. So I like this pick here. I was eyeing him a little bit. I like the pick. Should be stable floor every week flex play if he's healthy, but he does get banged up some. Jameson Williams, we'll see how he works in this new offense without Ben Johnson. I think you do need the field stretcher like him to kind of make room for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he's not going to be getting that shadow coverage that Amon-Ra will get. Teams will have to play to the running game, seeing some stack boxes. I think you'll see a lot of one-on-one coverage and, one-man safeties, one high safeties. So I think he will be a little bit of a boomer bust play. He kind of resolved some of that last year to where he was a bit more consistent, but you really need him to catch one of those deep bombs to really have a good day with Jameson Williams. Tony Pollard might be the steal of the draft after the news came out that what's his face backup Tajay Spears got hurt. Tony Pollard's going to get all the fucking work. Cam Ward's going to steal some rushing touchdowns and stuff like that. But I think he is an every week starter if you need him, right? If you don't need him, put him on the bench. But bye weeks, injuries, he is a great start. Njoku, I also had as a tight end target late. I think he maybe reached a little bit. I get that the tight ends kind of all went around here, and a lot of people had Njoku as their sleeper tight end. So maybe not a reach if you really want to see your guy. But Flacco was really good with him last year, and I expect more of that to be the same. Now, how good is their offense really? How many opportunities is he going to have for touchdowns? How long is Flacco the starter? That we don't know. We'll kind of see after that. Kyler, hate the pick, had him last year. He's ass. He's 4 feet tall, and he didn't run the ball last year, so maybe he's good this year. Hated him. Jauan Jennings, I think this is a relatively good pick. We'll see how his injury concern is and how how many snaps he's getting. Is he going to be behind Ricky Pearsall? What happens when Ayuk gets back? I expect McCaffrey and Kittle to get a lot of work early in the year, so maybe a viable flex play. But I think he'll be like last year, where last year he was pretty viable, but he did have like 3 or 4 big boom weeks. If we check here, that really kind of carried him. I know he had like a 40-point week, 29 point PPR, had a 46.5 point week in PPR, 25.1, 28. So he was really carried by those 3 big weeks. Should kind of be more of the same this year, maybe a little higher floor. Austin Eckler, just named the starter. I think there's going to be a lot split there. I think Jaden's going to take a lot of rushing. I don't know if he's going to be worth starting. Maybe he is. We'll see. I don't know how to really feel about him. Justin Fields, I hate this pick. I know that he's been like a top 12 quarterback every fucking year that he started or whatever. Dude just can't throw the ball. Garrett Wilson is his only receiving option that's any bit of a threat, and defenses are just going to key on him in the running game. I think I just was fading all Jets at all this year. I think that Justin Fields is not a good pick. Maybe he ends up being a top 12 or 14 quarterback, but like when you do that, why not take Darnell Mooney or Rashad White or Chris Godwin, these guys that can come back and be a real meaningful contributor to your team? Whereas I feel like Justin Fields is not unless your quarterback gets hurt. If that happens, play the waiver wire, pick up fucking Jared Goff or somebody. Defense, kicker, and Kincaid. Like I said, Josh Allen throws to whoever the fuck's open. So if he's open, he'll throw it to him. I just think it's hard to predict the volume. Dylan, I do like a lot of your draft picks. I think towards the end of the draft, you didn't get a lot of difference makers or players that can become difference makers. So you are pretty reliant on your starting lineup, which is pretty good. We'll go B minus for you, Dylan. I don't know how much time I have left, so I'm gonna try and roll through these. William McCaffrey, was surprised you took him here. If he's healthy, you might win the league. If not, you might be fucked. Brian Thomas, I really was considering him instead of Ginty. I think he's a good value here. We'll see how much Travis Hunter takes away from him and how big this offense takes a step up. But I think he's going to be a guaranteed top 20 wide receiver, even if he has a bad year. Jalen Hurts, tush push merchant. Dude's going to have fucking 20 rushing touchdowns. Congrats on your 20 points every week from Jalen Hurts. Good job, William. George Kittle. I really like this pick. I was kind of struggling with him and McBride on how I should evaluate them. McBride had no touchdowns last year, but George Kittle starting with no wide receivers on his team, and I think they're going to try and alleviate McCaffrey a little bit, and he's just one of the best in the fucking game. So I really do like this pick. Maybe he could have waited till the fifth round, maybe not. Um, Or yeah, you probably could have. I mean, I think Jeffrey was always taking McBride, so you could have waited till the fifth round and maybe taken JSN or actually no, sorry, it came back this way. So you're good. Probably wasn't coming back to you in the fifth. Kenneth Walker, I really like his underlying metrics, his breakaway rates, his forced missed tackle rates are all incredible. Dude just gets injured a lot, and I think he's not playing on a good offense. And I think they'll integrate Sharp a little bit more. A little concerned with him in the fifth round. I just think he's not the safest option there, but really high upside if he does hit. Devontae Smith, not my favorite pick. I think you're going to struggle to start him sometimes, as he is second on an offense that doesn't pass much. But as a desperation flex play, you're not going to do much better than him. Ibuka, I do like this pick a lot. I think everybody kind of likes him, especially with the situation he's in. Baker's good. Mike Evans is getting old. Chris Godwin's gone, but maybe Reese a little high for him. I know that his ADP was climbing a bunch going up to the draft, so you maybe had to take him here if you want to make sure you get him, but maybe a little high. Could be disappointed. Tyrone Tracy, I think he's going to be a good start for the first 7 or 8 weeks of the year. We'll see how much Scatterbo works in. I expect their defense to be really good, so they probably will run the ball a lot, and I expect their passing game to not be fantastic, even though I did take Neighbors. So he should be a fine flex play for at least the first half of the year. Stephon Diggs, I really don't know what to think about this. I've been hearing a lot of news in camp about Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas playing really well. So Diggs is coming off a major injury. He's old. He's a diva, but he is talented. So if I think Drake May is able to sustain him. It's just, how is he going to work in this offense, and is he going to be the first read? Kind of a bit of a dart throw in the ninth round. I don't hate it. Zach Charbonnet, like I mentioned earlier, I don't love Kenneth Walker because I think Charbonnet is going to be introduced more. I think it's great that you have them both because, like I said, Kenneth Walker is a bit injury prone. So great pick. Jordan Addison, dude's got the suspension. I'm a little worried about JJ McCarthy. We see rookie quarterbacks tend to check it down to the running back and tight ends a lot more than the wide receivers. So I think Justin Jefferson will monopolize a lot of the wide receiver targets. But I do really like him as a talent, and I do think he has showed out the past 2 years. So if he comes back and JJ's competent, this could be a great play. Mooney, I thought he was injured day to day. He actually performed really, really well last year. I'm not sure how this is going to work with Penix and Kyle Pitts and changing the offense, whatever. But he was really good last year, so I do not blame you taking him in the 12th round. If you can get a decent flex play out of him, I think he was like a top 20 wide receiver last year. If you can get a top 25 wide receiver out of him, that's a great pick. Braylon Allen, I think this is a good pick too. Brees Hall looked bummy last year after looking incredible the year before. Maybe he comes back to his old self and looks great, but I do think Braylon Allen's going to get worked in and get some more touches, and I don't think their offense is going to be very great. We'll see. I mean, he's just one of these committee guys that you're hoping for the upside. And then defense kicker. William, I'll give you a solid B on this. I think this is a good team. It is a little risky, I think, with your running backs, Kenneth Walker and McCaffrey. And then your wide receiver depth. I mean, Devontae Smith, Ibuka, Diggs. It's not my favorite, but I think you did really well at the quarterback and tight end positions, so they should help carry you most of the way if you can't fill up that last flex spot or two. Moving on to Ethan, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like I said, I'm down a little bit on the Lions. He should still be a top 10 wide receiver with all that volume. Maybe he doesn't get as many touchdowns as he had last year, as I knew he took a little bit of a step forward from the year before, but should still be guaranteed top 10 wide receiver if he's healthy. Josh Allen, we all knew this was coming. He's the only reason Ethan's ever decent at fantasy football. Congrats on your 6 wins, guaranteed. Brock Bowers, really weird going with the second and third round quarterback and tight end here. Really hoping for the premium on those two positions while other people might have slacked. It could really pay off for you if Josh Allen and Brock Bowers are combining for 50 points a week. It's going to be really fucking hard for you to lose. But I just think the rest of your team is a little worrisome. I don't love Breece Hall as an RB1. DK Metcalf actually might be a fine play. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 or maybe even top 15 wide receiver, but should have a really, really good floor. And if he has good positive touchdown regression, he should, be a very serviceable wide receiver. And Aaron Rodgers loves to pepper his number one guys. He's the only guy there. Pacheco, running back on a good offense. He did get banged up last year, and their offense, wasn't as great last year. Shout out Matt Nagy as they were as the year before. I think he's a fine person to have as your RB2. You maybe want him as your RB3, and he looks like he's going to be your fourth flex, which is not, I'd like to have him as my fifth or sixth flex. That's fine. Jerry Judy, I like this pick. We'll see how long Flacco's starting, but he's very talented, and they should be down every single game throwing the ball a fuck ton. Olave, this might be the worst pick of the draft. Holy fuck. I know it's the eighth round. This dude has never had 20 points in half PPR. Never. Not in his entire year. You can go through all his years. I'm not going to do it. He's never had 20 points. Leaves with a concussion every other fucking game. His quarterback's ass. His team is ass. If you start him, you are going to be disappointed. Just how it is. Jalen Warren, reverse side of what I was talking about with Brennan with Caleb Johnson. I do like this pick. Should be a really, really safe running back here in these late rounds. Kind of the same with Dobbins too. Him and Harvey. He'll start the year getting more touches, but maybe will get phased out. I think either of them are startable on any given week. Probably will play the matchups and will probably need a touchdown to really make you happy with their performance. But both of them will be startable. Khalil Shakir, I think this is like your fifth year taking him. Josh Allen throws to whoever's open. It might be Khalil Shakir on the day. We'll see. I just don't think there's much upside with this pick. Defense kicker, Ramondre, as previously mentioned, bum ass salad, shitstorm. Travion to the moon. Michael Pittman, again, like Daniel Jones ain't gonna be throwing bombs to Michael Pittman. If Anthony Richardson was there, I'd say, hey, you know what? He might throw 20 touchdowns and 30 picks, and 18 of those touchdowns might be to Michael Pittman. But this dude's gonna be off your team in 2 weeks, if not before that. If your quarterback and tight end work out, Ethan, your team is fucking cracked. But I don't like your depth. I don't like your flex positions. I'm gonna give you a C. On to me, obviously, we're gonna give ourselves an A+. 100%. No, but Neighbors or Nico was always going to be my ninth pick once the HN and Stafford stuff came out. Neighbors faces a lot more shadows this year. I think like 8 or 9 shadow coverages, whereas Nico only faces 3 or 4. But they both each have one in the fantasy playoffs, and Nico's injury history worried me a little bit more than Neighbors. So Neighbors won the tiebreaker for me. Jeffrey really wanted Nico, so that's fine with me. Genty, every running back taken in the top 12 picks of the NFL draft at the running back position finished as a top 10 running back in terms of points per game if they played more than 14, I think it was 200 carries. And that's not counting. There were like 2 or 3 players who were on pace for it that didn't get their 200 carry mark because they got hurt. I think Achan was one of them. I can't remember the other. But I do really like this pick. Maybe not the highest ceiling because he plays for the Raiders, but Gino's a dome merchant. I think their offense takes a step up. Keith Harrell's a good coach, and he should get a ton of volume. Maybe not the highest upside play, but great floor for my every week starting running back. T. Higgins had him circled here. I wanted a piece of the Bengals offense. This was really my only chance. I'm taking it. JSN, think he's going to be volume merchant in the slot on a not good team. Probably a good floor play. Will probably be him, Demont, Pickens, and Swift will probably be fighting for my last 2 flex spots on any given week. And I think he's probably the safest of those given his volume. Demont, also another safe pick. I can start him every week. I kind of was looking for some stability in these mid rounds so that I could shoot some dart throws later. And I think Demont gives me that. I think Gibbs will, take a little bit more volume than last year, but Demont's still going to get 40% of the touches, a lot of the overall running work in a team that should be good. George Pickens, everybody's really high on him this year. I don't really need to talk about him much, but on a great offense, potential wide receiver, what? Question mark? I think of all the second best wide receivers on the team, him and T have the best case for being a top 10 wide receiver. DeAndre Swift, just taking a shot at the Ben Johnson offense. We'll see how it works out. Maybe he's great. I don't know. Hawkinson, I felt like he slid a little bit too much. I was eyeing Njoku and didn't think he would get all the way back to me. Um, Again, I have my worries about JJ McCarthy, but rookie quarterbacks do tend to check down on the tight end more. Um, I think he'll be a fine tight end. I drafted him as one, two, three, four. Might have got him as five. Let's see. I went one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got him out of value because he slid crazy, but I did draft him at tight end five. I don't know if he's going to return that, but I think he'll be a guaranteed top 10 tight end. Jordan Mason, this is one of my favorite picks of the draft. Aaron Jones, I saw some stat. He was like total ass salad inside of the red zone, and Jordan Mason was like one of the best running backs last year inside of the red zone. No, he had the Niners offensive line and offense helping him out, whatever. But I do think he's going to be the goal line back. He will need a touchdown to make my day. But Aaron Jones getting kind of old, didn't look fantastic last year, has had injury concerns in the past. I do like this pick. He could be a regular starter for me if things go right. Justin Herbert, I really don't know what to think about this. This was kind of just an impulse pick. Um, I do think they pass the ball a lot more, and I do think that he is really good. We'll just see if he can be a top 10 fantasy quarterback off that. Tank Bigsby, kind of the exact same as I did with DeAndre Swift. I just wanted a piece of the Liam Cohen backfield. Might be Bashaw Tootin, might be ETN. I don't fucking know, but I wanted one of them. Dak Prescott had him eyed the entire fucking draft season as my late round quarterback. Especially once I got Pickens, I felt like this was a smash play, and Dylan ended up wanting him, so he ended up drafting Justin Fields. Fuck you. Nick Chubb, literally only drafted him because I expected him to be the week one starter in Houston, and Joe Mixon's going to be out forever. They are going to use some Woody Marks and some Dare Agumbawale, but I think Chubb's going to be the week one starter and might get a couple months of the most volume on that team. Then defense, and then Tyler Algier, whatever. Like I said, A plus. And then we're moving to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, we have Derrick Henry. I like the pick. No problems there. Should have 15 plus touchdowns again, at least 1,500 yards. If he doesn't get hurt, which he never does, he plays better in whenever it's snowing. Dude's a freak. Great pick. Nico Collins, again, great pick. Injury concerns, maybe might get hurt, whatever. You could say that about anybody, but he has been injured the past 2 years a good bit. So maybe a little bit of concern there. McConkey, I do really like this pick. I probably would have taken him over JSN if he slid. Maybe I should have taken him instead of T, but I really wanted T. I think this is a good pick. Ceiling, I'm not too sure where it is, but I mean, his floor, he should be getting you minimum 11 points every week just based off his floor. And if he catches a touchdown or two, your day is made. Trey McBride, I think this is a good pick too, especially to get him. I know it's the start of the fourth, but in the fourth round, had so much volume last year, just could not get in the end zone. He's going to have positive touchdown regression, maybe a little negative volume regression, but he should be one of the top three tight ends with these other two. If he doesn't get injured, I would be surprised if he was outside of the top three. Chuba Hubbard, they did pay the man, but I'm not too sure what to think about this. He should get the majority of the carries to start the year, but I mean, he was great last year. I just don't know what to expect from him. They do have Trico Dowdle there, who played really well last year. I think he got to 1,000 yards, so maybe a split backfield. I think fifth round's maybe a little. I guess it's a 5-6 turn, maybe a little early for him, but a safe play, and I'm not going to hate on that too much. Sutton, I think is a great pick. I kind of wanted him a little bit. Should be a locked-in wide receiver two, you would think. Ricky Pearsall, kind of a dart throw. We'll see what happens when Ayuk gets back. He did get shot, but I think he's a talented player and could have a good start to the year, and maybe he builds that into something bigger. Aaron Jones, already discussed, dude's buns. Baker Mayfield, I think everybody went with the hype from last year a little bit too much on Baker Mayfield. I think he finished as like the fucking QB3 or some shit. He was four, QB4 last year. I just think they take a little bit of a step back. He doesn't have the rushing volume. Maybe they get a few more rushing touchdowns than they had last year instead of passing touchdowns. He's not going to be QB4. Jeffrey took him at QB 8 or 9, which is fine, but I just don't really see top five upside with him. Tyler Warren, kind of a dart throw, but you have McBride. Don't really have a problem with it. You just might have to hold on to two tight ends, and then you're gonna have to fucking trade one of them if Warren's any good. So good luck with that. Bill, I really wanted him at the time. He's now third or fourth on the depth chart. We'll see what the fuck happens, but it looks like Eckler and Chris Rodriguez are going to get more run than him to start the year. Now, he's going to get some carries, and if he performs with those, I don't doubt that they will give him a lot more in the future. Josh Downs, I really like Josh Downs coming out when he was a rookie. He started his rookie year really well, and then he had Anthony Richardson last year, and I think some injury problems. I don't really know what to think about him. I don't have faith in Daniel Jones, but he is kind of more the deeper route guy. So not my favorite pick. I don't love the upside here. I think he'll probably be off your team pretty soon. Judkins, I really don't know what to think about this. Still not signed the rookie deal. There's rumors that he could start week one and be back this week. But I think Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford are probably going to get most of the touches week one. And then Niners defense and Bud stuff. Um, I really do like Jeffrey's team. It might be one of my favorites in the draft. I like the way it's constructed. The two tight ends aren't great. And I don't like his upside late. We'll go B minus. But yeah, that's it. First game's Thursday. I'm not starting my two Cowboys as of now. It's probably the plan moving forward, but we'll see. But yeah, fucking that's the breakdown. Good luck to everybody except for fucking Jordy. You're a prick. All right, bye.